It's my first time being back at this church in a minute, and I kind of don't know how to feel about it, because I'm not saying I had like a bad experience before, it just wasn't like the best experience. But I guess church is not about your personal experience, it's about, you know, learning and growing your relationship with God, which as you get older you just realize, you know, you can't take every little thing personally, and you don't know, things might change, and there's so many different... Let me turn my GPS off. I was saying, as you get older, especially when we're talking around the subject of religious trauma, and I'm not going to say religious trauma isn't real or that people haven't experienced religious trauma, but it's their individual experience with religion. It's not everyone's universal experience. Everyone doesn't have a traumatic religious experience. So the people who have experienced religious trauma have not been able to separate their individual experience with religion from, you know, the really great experience and freeing and life-changing experiences people also have with church. So church hurt is very real, and I think that the people who do deal with those things, you know, have to like, one, recognize that their experience is not every single church that is out there. There's a lot of different churches that do a lot of things, and there are bad churches who do, you know, unfortunately preach a false gospel and are harsh and do leave people with not the right idea of Christianity or of Jesus. And I strongly believe a lot of people who do deal with church hurt will eventually come back. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I strongly believe that their foundation was just rooted in the wrong. Their identity in Christ wasn't actually rooted in Christ. It was rooted in something else that they were taught incorrectly. So you have to unlearn, you know, the lies that you were taught and told, and relearn who Christ is and how you actually are, what Jesus actually wants you to know. So, in the same sense though, a lot of those Christians who do suffer the traumatic religious experience can sometimes go to the far left side of Christianity, and I'm not saying Christianity should even be like political or anything like that, but progressive Christianity, they start going towards the Christianity that sounds good to them, but there's only really one true gospel. So there's a lot of false gospels out there, and both are harmful. So you have the gospel that everyone goes to hell if they've sinned. You have the gospel everyone goes to heaven regardless of sin, and those are both equally false and dangerous. One just sounds better than the other. So you have to still be really careful that your relationship with God, you're following the true gospel, not just what sounds or feels good, but what you have learned and grown from having a personal relationship with God. So I really hope that people who have experienced those traumatic experiences in church really learn, get the healing that they so need, and learn about the real gospel of Jesus Christ and how freeing it truly is. Because I hate that so many people feel like they don't want a relationship with God God anymore because they were hurt so badly by people in church. And I'm going to specifically say, now there are people who lose their faith in God because they go through a hard or traumatic situation, and then they say, well, God can't be real because I went through this traumatic experience, and there's no way a loving God would allow me to go through those things. Now, that's separate from people who've been hurt or told really horrible things by pastors or trusted people in church that taint their really their just entire belief system. Because unfortunately, as much as I know that people are not God, the people who claim to represent God, though, have a larger impact on people who are new to the faith and new to Christianity. And if they experience a pastor who isn't loving and caring and is preaching harmful things in church, it's gonna leave people, you know, the way we see some people now. So yeah, I just think you know, there's so many great, amazing churches and pastors and preachers out there. Just because you've experienced the bad side does not mean there's not a good side. And please understand, the bad side that you experience really is not the gospel. And you shouldn't you know, use that experience to shape how you feel. I mean, it's not my first time. It's just, man, I'm all the way in the back today. I'm very, very late. Very, very late. Well, this person parked kind of crooked. I'm not gonna be able to get out if I park there. You parked too close to the line, dude. Alright, I'm at church now, so I'll see y'all later. Alright, y'all. I made it to church, and I'm heading home now. Because I just don't want to get stuck in this traffic. And I parked like all the way in the back. So, alright, y'all. The great thing... This sounds so bad. The biggest difference between black church and white church is the time it takes to get in and out of service. So, literally less than an hour to get in and out of this church. Service starts at 11 and it is 12. Child, I grew up, well, my grandparents' church would be like 3 hours. I would be half asleep by the time. They are very, very efficient. And then, like, the church I grew up going to, it was like 2.5 to 3 hours. My grandma's church was like 3+ hours because of just all the things. You gotta go to Sunday school. It would be like, I'd be at church at 8 and I wouldn't get out until... Actually, I probably would be at church at like 9, and I wouldn't get out till about around 2. So it was like half your day. And when you are a child and you're not fully understanding everything that's happening in church, that is, and then you would get in trouble if you fell asleep. I think that's why it's important to have a children's ministry. Because putting children in, like, I don't want to say adult church, but they can't fully understand, they don't fully understand like what is happening. child is just going to feel bored and not stimulated in church, versus like my old church I grew up going to the children's ministry, and you're surrounded and you have like youth pastors and people who are able to preach on your level. But I do also understand, like, when you're trying to like coordinate everything, like the main church with the youth church, there be times like our youth the youth minister would be finished with the sermon, but the main church would be going over the time, so we would just have to like just be in there. Like when church was over, it was basically just like being at a youth facility. Like you could play all the games and stuff, so it kept you stimulated until your parents came and picked you up. But now that I'm like older, it's basically like free babysitting. Like Sundays is when you received that child care. I think it's mainly Baptist churches where they have like all age groups come together at once. And then in my old church, it was really only like the special occasions like Christmas, Easter. Well, really, those are the only two. Where like the youth they wouldn't have the children's ministries available. And then it was split by like age groups. So there was like elementary, and then of course like pre-K and under, and then they have a middle school, and then they had a high school one, and I think eventually they might have joined the middle and high school one. I just know when I was in church, I was involved on my church's in my church's youth ministry from like 4th grade till I graduated from high school, and that's something that I really enjoyed, and I feel like I was still able to grow in my relationship with Christ without having to be in like the adult version of the word is not really always appropriate for children under a certain age, or until, you know, children have reached a certain age where they can fully understand everything. And so I do think that's really important to group church or sermons by age group, because if you're preaching to like a 5-year-old that they're going to hell because they don't, like, that's not a sermon that you would want a 5-year-old to be sitting and listening to. That could actually even be traumatizing for a child to listen to that, because they're not going to understand fully and completely who and what Jesus is. So that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, I really was just filming this to say I was out of church in an hour, and that would just never happen at a black church. And I know, like, we shouldn't be separating church by skin color, but we all know these things happen, and certain types of churches do different things, and that's okay. Overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, He fights till I'm found. I don't know the words. Leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no mountain you won't climb up, fountain you won't light up, run after me. be singing songs and I just be making up the lyrics as I go, because half the time I do not know them. Do not know them. Let's see, this one takes cards. Yes, I'll just pull up to this one. All right, we getting gas. Period. All right, y'all. I think I just got a piece of sugar in my mouth. Ugh. I got an iced coffee, or no, iced latte from Iron Bank, which is downtown. And I haven't gotten any new orders, so I'm about to head home and see if I pick up any on the way home. If not, I'm just gonna go offline. Oh my gosh, these ribs are about to be so good.
5, 7